Ever heard of acrylamide? It's a chemical that forms during certain cooking methods, and it's been sparking concerns about potential health risks. The problem is it's found in a lot of foods, mostly in plant-based foods like potatoes, grains, and coffee. Acrylamide has likely always been in cooked foods, though it was only discovered in some foods in April 2002. It's not added to foods. Instead, it forms naturally when using cooking methods such as baking, frying, grilling, toasting, and roasting. It's also rarely found in dairy, meat, or fish. Also, organic food doesn't have any less acrylamide than non-organic food. It's all about how food is cooked. The higher the temperature and the longer the cooking time, the greater the levels of acrylamide that can develop. Acrylamide doesn't naturally occur in cooking oil, but can form when starchy foods like potatoes are fried, especially if the same oil gets reused over and over. At home, this isn't usually a big issue unless you're reusing oil in something like a fryer. In the food industry, though, daily oil use can lead to harmful acrylamide levels. Regularly replacing the oil is key to keeping it safe. Acrylamide is also produced industrially for making paper, dyes, plastics, treating water, and is also found in everyday products like caulking, food packaging, and adhesives.
Acrylamide is a very toxic poison. It's like a plastic, causes cancer. It's in a lot of pet foods. It's in our foods. It's in, well, not our foods, maybe some people's foods. French fries, potato chips, toasted bread, cereals. Cigarettes actually have 3 times the amount than actual food. And even coffee. Now, if you consume dark roast, you'll get less of it than a lighter version because apparently the roasting breaks down acrylamide. But the question is, where does this acrylamide come from? Well, it comes from the combination of consuming high carbs, glucose or fructose, with an amino acid called asparagine under high heats, 248 degrees Fahrenheit. Now, you're not going to create the situation if you boil things or steam them, but it's basically just a combination of these under high heats creates this toxic plastic substance that then causes cancer.
You can be exposed to acrylamide by eating high-temperature cooked carbohydrate-rich foods, breathing secondhand smoke, drinking water near plastic or dye plants, or working with acrylamide-containing products, which may involve skin contact. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention say acrylamide primarily affects the nervous and reproductive systems. High levels of exposure, often experienced by certain workers, can lead to symptoms like muscle weakness, numbness, unsteadiness, and clumsiness. However, most people need to be exposed to levels high enough to cause these effects. When it comes to cancer risk, acrylamide has been linked to several types of cancer in animal studies. While human data remains limited, major health organizations such as the International Agency for Research on Cancer, the European Food Safety Authority, and the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency classify acrylamide as a likely carcinogenic to humans based on animal research. If you're concerned about potential exposure, acrylamide levels can be measured in your blood or urine to determine how much has entered your body.
We know that acrylamide causes cancer in rats and mice in the laboratory. We know that it interacts with the DNA, with the genetic material in the cells, and because of what we know about acrylamide, it's probable that it could also cause cancer in people. The levels of acrylamide that are present in our diet are higher than we would be comfortable with. We would prefer them to be lower. And so that's why the Food Standards Agency is encouraging the industry to try to reduce acrylamide levels in processed foods. And we wish to raise awareness amongst consumers of the things that they could do that might help them to reduce their exposure to acrylamide in food.
Because it's naturally occurring, acrylamide has always been present in our food and always will. But the longer and hotter we cook food, the more acrylamide there'll be. So knowing that, we can all take steps to reduce our acrylamide intake. First of all, go for gold. You cook food till it's a golden yellow colour, no darker, because it's the process that makes food brown that also leads to higher levels of acrylamide. If you're cooking pre-prepared food, then follow the instructions on pack for cooking and reheating. Third, eat a balanced and healthy diet. Varying your diet will help you manage the levels of acrylamide. And finally, don't store your potatoes in the fridge. And that's because in the cold, potatoes undergo a process called cold sweetening that increases the level of chemicals in potatoes that are the precursors for acrylamide when you cook them. So your potatoes, take them out of the fridge, store them in the dark, store them cool, but above 6 degrees.
The European Union has regulated acrylamide in food since 2018, including guidelines for selecting, storing, and cooking ingredients to reduce acrylamide levels, with specific standards set for different food groups. In the U.S., the Environmental Protection Agency regulates acrylamide in drinking water, setting safe exposure levels. The Food and Drug Administration oversees acrylamide levels in food contact materials, but according to the National Cancer Institute, there are no specific regulations for acrylamide in food itself.